There were news recently that the French government is worried to find that a lot of French people are now followers of QAnon, which has prompted an investigation on whether this is a dangerous movement based on what happened on January the 6th, the storming of the US Capitol. And if you know something about QAnon, this may be very confusing because QAnon is all about US politics, right? So, what is it doing in France? In my opinion, what happens is that QAnon is not a political movement, at least not anymore. It has become a full on religion. And that's very dangerous and very worrisome because I think we can expect QAnon to become a very violent movement. In the previous videos of this series, I talked about sovereign citizens, flat earthers, anti-vaxxers, and Trump supporters. And I told you about some insights I had into why people believe these kinds of things. So in this video, I'm not going to give you any insights about why people believe in QAnon, because I think it's pretty much the same reasons they support Trump or why people fall for these kinds of conspiracy theories. So I would just be repeating myself. But what I am more interested is trying to figure out how QAnon became a religion. We have to start with the origins of QAnon and the 2016 US election. We have to start with Pizzagate. In the video about Trump supporters, I tried to get an insight into why so many conservatives tend to demonize literally their political opponents. It cannot just be that these are people with different opinions and a different worldview. No, it has to be in their mind that these people are evil, that they are cannibals and pedophiles and Satanists. And of course, having this worldview makes it really easy. Of course, you have to be against the cannibal Satanists. There is no other option but then to support the Republicans. This became their first dogma, that the bad people, the people in the conspiracy, the people in the cabal, are all the socialists, all the liberals, all the progressives, all the people that are in favor of change in many ways. And so this had a very interesting effect, because now if someone said like, hey, I like this idea of Bernie that colleges should be free, someone could tell you, but man, he is part of the conspiracy, so even if you think that idea is good, it must be bad somehow because it only furthers the interest of the cabal. And similarly, everything the Republicans tried to do was by definition good, because they were not part of this Satanist conspiracy. They were the good guys. I think this created a predisposition for many people to believe any horrible things they heard about Democratic politicians, specifically at this point in time, Hillary Clinton. And so somehow the conspiracy theory started circulating that Hillary and Bill Clinton had a child trafficking ring, and that somehow their base of operations was the basement of a pizza restaurant. Many people ended up believing that this was absolutely true, but then most of them did nothing about it, because remember that in their worldview, it has to justify them not doing anything more than just supporting some political candidates, because of what we mentioned in the previous video. But one of them was the exception, because like if you knew of a place that has kidnapped children that are being trafficked, like of course you would try to save them or help them any way you could. And so this guy took his gun and he went to this pizza restaurant and tried to rescue these children, which of course was impossible because there were no children there and that restaurant doesn't even have a basement in the first place. But this conspiracy theory, I think, was the origin of QAnon, because despite this guy obviously not finding anything, despite this conspiracy theory being proven untrue, there were so many people that still wanted to believe that Hillary and Bill Clinton were these child trafficking monsters. And for many people, the fact that no evidence of this was found only meant that they had control over the police and all the authorities, that they had managed to hide all the evidence. So, like in their minds, nothing would have proven this untrue. because at this point I think it was becoming faith. They were ready to believe these things no matter what. Around this point in time, you see crazier and crazier conspiracy theories being circulated about Hillary Clinton, but then also about Barack Obama, about Bernie Sanders, and about all the Democrats. Because it cannot just be that just this one Democratic politician is a bad person. All of them have to be, because if it wasn't the case, if it was just this one bad person, well, then it would be okay to vote for Democratic politicians in the future in other elections. And by saying that all of them are evil, that all of them are somehow part of this conspiracy, means that there is only one party you can vote for, which again makes it everything really simple and makes it so that people don't have any other responsibility in their life than just supporting this one political party. Then Trump got elected, and a few months afterwards, we have all these anons, all these people that started posting information in the internet claiming to be part of the CIA or the army or of the government, and claiming to have this secret information that they were giving to the people. Many of them became somewhat popular, but when this phenomenon exploded was with QAnon. This was an user whose username was just the letter Q, and who reported in their first post that Hillary Clinton was about to be arrested and that there were secret indictments against her and that something really big was going to happen. And I think this is what made Q different from previous anons, that all of these people were like giving secret information about stuff, but Q was telling you what was going to happen. This was a sort of prophecy. And not just that, but now you knew that secret information. Somehow you were part of that inner circle. And that means that you are part of this revolution, you are part of this movement, and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to go and arrest Hillary Clinton. They are not asking you to like grab a gun and go do something. No, you just sit down and enjoy the show, which again, for everything I talked about in the Trump supporter video, I think is really important for many of them. Like the feeling that they are part of this revolution, but then not doing anything for it other than just supporting a candidate. And sure, Hillary Clinton was not arrested, but that didn't stop Q from making more and more predictions. And it is at this point that Trump's Twitter account becomes really important. Because remember how Trump would tweet nonsense things like covfefe, or how he would have a lot of spelling mistakes, or a lot of weird capitalization and all that stuff? These people started looking at all of those things as somehow encoded secret messages. They started thinking that Trump wanted to communicate with them and give them all of this secret information, much like Q was doing. Then, in one press conference, Trump mentioned that this was the calm before the storm. And the storm became a foundational principle in this movement. They started saying that one day Trump would reveal all the truth. He would reveal all this conspiracy that was ruling the world, and that everyone would know the truth. And they started calling that day the storm. And so the phrase that the storm was coming became almost like a dogma in this new religion. But before going more into why QAnon started becoming more religions at this point, like we have to explain what were they believing. Because much like sovereign citizens, they started developing a sort of mythology. But while the sovereign citizens mythology revolves all around bureaucracy and government institutions, the mythology of QAnon is a lot more encompassing. It's about government and bureaucracy, sure, but it's also about society. And so there are several versions of this creation myth, and up to this point there isn't one unified version, but I'm gonna give you like my best attempt to explain, to combine all of the things I've seen online. So it all starts with Kennedy, with JFK. They say that this guy discovered this conspiracy. He discovered that there was this whole group of Satanists, pedophiles, cannibals, and that they were ruling the world. And also the World Bank is involved there. And this is why JFK had to fake his own death. He didn't die, he faked it. And that from that point on, for decades, he has been working to bring this organization down, this secret cabal. Also, the cabal becomes almost like the name for the Satan in this mythology, in this creation myth. Then, somehow, all these decades of secret work by Kennedy culminate with Trump being chosen to run in the 2016 election. This is like the last step of this plan to bring down the cabal. Also, there are some versions that say that JF Kennedy is not involved and that the army discovered this conspiracy and that the army asked Trump to run for president and destroy all this, destroy the cabal. But in both versions of the story, why would Kennedy or the army resort to this New York real estate developer to like complete their master plan? But anyway, also they explained that maybe Trump was recruited decades ago, and that's why he was friends with the Clintons or with Jeffrey Epstein, because he was undercover. He was trying to gather all the information about this cabal in order to bring it down. Now, this is just a very simple version of that mythology. There are versions that are a lot more complex, but the point is that with this context, this storm that is coming, this revelation of this cabal that has been ruling the world, it becomes kind of like an apocalypse. Like the day of the storm is like the end of times. And so QAnon starts looking a lot like all of these apocalyptic cults that have existed throughout history. And they have a very common pattern. A leader comes and claims that there will be some kind of reckoning, some kind of event that is going to happen in the very near future, and they make some kind of prediction, and then that prediction doesn't come true, so they create another one, and then another one. And for example, this is the exact pattern that Jehovah's Witnesses followed. They started claiming that Jesus would come back in a certain date, and then they have been changing the date or changing their interpretation for decades. In this context, you could also look at Q as a sort of prophet and Trump as a messiah. Now, of course, none of this makes sense, but my favorite way to think about this is, even if everything was true, like let's assume they are right about everything, there really is a cabal ruling the world, and JFK really did team up with Trump decades ago to bring them down, sure. Let's assume that that all of that is true. Why would they tell you? Like, why would they start releasing all these secret messages? Why would they have Q go in the internet and explain all of this to these people? Like, they clearly don't need the help of, like, everyday people, right? They believe that by definition, they are gonna do all of this by themselves. Like, they don't need anyone's help, right? And so, why would they tell you? Why would they risk their plan in order to let people know what's going on? Just do it. I think that's the biggest logical flaw in the whole plan. Like, because like even if you assume that everything is true, it still doesn't make sense. As Q continued making predictions that did not come true, and as Trump continued failing politically, they developed their second dogma: trust the plan. This is the idea that no matter how the prophecies do not come true, no matter how horrible are the things that Trump says or does, it doesn't matter if Rudy Giuliani farts on TV in front of a judge, everything is part of the plan. And you just have to trust that everything will turn out okay. This is similar to many mechanisms religions have to stop their followers from criticizing or questioning the religion. For example, they might tell you that you have to have faith because if you don't, God is gonna punish you regardless of how good of a person you were. In this case, they tell you that even if everyone seems completely stupid and incompetent, they are much smarter than you. And so you have no right questioning the plan and the actions of everyone involved, no matter how deplorable. You just have to trust that somehow they know better and they know what they are doing and that it is for the good of everyone. But then Trump lost the election. And this was a big problem for all of them because their whole cosmology revolves around this prophecy. And this prophecy, in order to be fulfilled, needs Trump to be in power. And in fact, I would go so far as to say that one of their dogmas is that Trump cannot fail. Like everything Trump does has to be right by definition. And so the fact that he lost the election was a really big problem for this system of beliefs. And I think that at this point, it started merging with the sovereign citizen movement and it started incorporating other elements of that mythology, particularly the idea that the United States was abolished in secret and that the current United States is either a postal office or an admiralty court or a corporation or something else. And and under this new framework, Trump losing the election is part of the plan, because what Trump would want to do is to make this institution, this fake United States, abolish itself. And they explained that all the court cases and the siege of the Capitol was all part of the plan in order to make... remember when they had all these soldiers in Washington, D.C., and they put all these barriers? They explained that for some obscure legal reason that doesn't really make sense, like surrounding Washington, D.C. in this way made it a different entity from the rest of the fake United States. And so when Joe Biden took possession there, he became the president of Washington, D.C., but only of Washington, D.C., and not the rest of the fake United States. And then they explained that because the presidents of the United States used to take possession in March the 4th, that's when the institution will be abolished because it will not have a legitimate president. And at that point, Trump will become the president of the real United States or even a new nation. Like, okay, I'm not explaining it really well, but in my defense, it doesn't make sense even if you explain it well enough, but whatever. The point is that this is their new prophecy. I mean, it's not as important as the storm, but it's really important because they believe that something has to happen in March the 4th, which, if I'm quick at editing this video, is gonna be the day I upload this video, that something has to happen today. And if something doesn't happen, then this movement is in really big trouble, because this is somehow like their last prophecy. Like, it has to work, and if it doesn't work, then the movement has to change. And in fact, this is something I've seen in other forums or stuff that I check just to see what these people are thinking. But you can go and check this interview that they made in CNN with people that used to believe in QAnon. I mean, we already saw how willing they are to resort to violence in January the 6th when they attacked the Capitol. And what I fear for what I've seen these people talking about and what these previous QAnon believers believe is that if Trump doesn't do something on March the 4th, this movement is going to become very violent. They are going to decide that they need to take matters in their own hands. And basically, the point I'm going to is that they are going to become a terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda or ISIS, and they are going to start using violence to try to fulfill their plan. And also, they are going to believe that somehow this is all part of the plan. I'm not sure how they are going to modify their mythology or their worldview to fit this in, but they will. And under this new framework that they are going to create, they are going to believe that violence was always part of the plan, that it was always necessary. And when they attacked the Capitol, they killed 5 people because they were only there looking to kill, Mike Pence and the other senators. And thanks to the heroism of all the people working there and people like Eugene Goodman, they were not able to get to the senators in time. But this was disorganized, this was spontaneous. When nothing happens tomorrow, they are gonna start organizing a lot more. They are gonna take things more seriously. And their goal is going to be, probably kill some high-ranking politicians, But also they are gonna try to kill a lot of minorities and a lot of liberal people. And I hope I'm wrong, right? I'm hoping that this won't happen. But we have already seen examples, like when they tried to kidnap the governor of Michigan, or during the Capitol when they were screaming, "Hang Mike Pence." My fear is that they will only become more desperate and more committed to these ideas. But how does any of this explain why there are QAnon supporters in France? Well, because I think that the core of QAnon is not conservative values. The core of QAnon is not even Trump. The core of QAnon is hate. Hate towards all those goddamn liberals that want to accept gay and transgender people. Hate towards all those people that care about the environment and want to change how we consume food and drive our cars. Hate towards all those people that care about racism and economical inequality. Hate towards all of those people that want to change the world in which I'm living a very comfortable life. And this goes back to the video about Trump supporters, in which I explain how this desire for hope move people to support all these politicians that tell them that they don't have to do any sacrifices, they don't have to change anything to make the world a better place. If you just add some hate to the mix, instead of just like disregarding or disbelief, when you add hate to all of this, I think what you get is QAnon. And now, sure, when I explain their beliefs about this secret cabal and this conspiracy that rules the world, it doesn't seem racist by itself. It doesn't seem like they hate people that care about the environment or any of this stuff. But then when you look at the people that they believe that are part of the conspiracy, they are always climate activists. They are always either Muslim or black people. They are always people like Bernie Sanders that care about economical inequality, or sometimes women. Like, it is always the people that support all of these issues who are part of this conspiracy. This is why QAnon allows all these people to be hateful, to be homophobic, to be racist, to be all these things, but justify their hate towards all these people in a way that doesn't look racist or doesn't look homophobic, but in the end it is. Now, of course, in order for QAnon to exist in France, this means that they have to be changing some of their mythology, some of their cosmology to adapt it to French politics. But I don't think that's too hard. You don't even need to look for another messiah like Trump. You just need to look for the same enemies, for the people that support all these policies that want to change the world and just claim that they are part of the conspiracy as well. And once QAnon starts adapting its mythology to fit the cultures of other countries, I think it will stop spreading to many more places. It probably has already spread to Canada or Australia, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is spreading towards Germany, Spain, and other places in the European Union. It might even be really easy for it to spread to India, because in India they have all of these issues with Muslims and all of these Hindu nationalists. And so while Christianity is seemingly an important part of all these QAnon people because they hate Muslims and they hate Jews, well, I think they would be neutral towards Hindus, and many Hindu nationalists already hate Muslims, and so they have this connective tissue there that I think will allow many people in India to fall for QAnon. Yeah, I think that's worrisome and that's dangerous because we have this movement of hate spreading all over the world. And we have to do something about it. And I'm not exactly sure what. I'm not here to propose a solution. I don't know what the solution might be. But I hope that by understanding these people better, by understanding what they think and what they believe, we will be able to start doing something about it. But there's one thing I know about how we can solve this problem. There's one thing I'm sure of, and that's that we need passion. Because these people are passionate. All the people that believe in QAnon have an incredible conviction and passion and dedication to their movement. And if we want to be against them, if we want to defeat them, this is gonna sound super corny, but we have to be equally committed and passionate about love. Because all these people are going to be spreading their hateful ideology and their hateful message, and they are gonna be screaming it, and they're gonna be super dedicated about it, and they are not gonna give up. And we have to be equally as passionate to promote a message of love, acceptance, and not just that, but teamwork. We have to be motivated to do stuff, because nothing else will suffice. Like, if we are just lukewarm towards all of these problems, QAnon is going to be very successful, because they are not lukewarm, they are definitely passionate. And so yeah, this is me doing my part. This is my effort to try to be passionate about love and teamwork and working together, and to try to tell people about this problem. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm exaggerating, and after March the 4th, QAnon will just die out and it will not become a violent movement. If I'm wrong about that and this video ages horribly, I will be immensely happy. But if I'm right, then I just hope that I'm just doing my part to make the world a better place and to try to stop this hateful movement. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I hope maybe you disagree with me in many things, but I hope that you at least agree with me that we have to work together to make the world a better place, and that we have to try to stop all these conspiracy theories from making more harm in the world. If you disagree with me about everything else, that's fine, but if we agree about that one thing, yeah, it's fine. And well, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see something else, something more relaxing, tell you what, go to my channel, check the playlist, maybe check the one about science or about linguistics or world building. And if you like those, please subscribe and give me a like. Thanks a lot, and please be passionate about love and compassion and working together, because nothing else will be enough.